welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today is the 14th of September 2018, and we're expecting that anybody who's on Tricks of the S-Trade 2 right here would have been on Tricks of the S-Trade, the original channel itself, because for you to understand anything that we're saying on this particular channel, you would have been on Tricks of the S-Trade before this. But if you're fairly new, we'll show you what to do so you can get to understanding what we're all about. Now, on today's video, I have a couple of things that I want to talk about. I'm going to have a very special message for the Vatican today. The Vatican does watch our channel, and they've read our book, and we just have a very special message that we're going to address to them today. And the message is for all the people listening out there who are working for the Vatican directly or indirectly. You could be a free Masonic person, you could be a cop, you could be a Jesuit, you could be working for the NSA, the CIA, and all the branches of government and control. Be it either you're working for YouTube yourself, because we know that the Vatican owns YouTube and they're listening in on our channel. We have a very special message for all you guys out there working directly or indirectly for the Vatican and reporting whatever you're hearing on our videos, on our channels, and maybe you've read our book as well. We have a very special message for you. So please, if you're any of those agents out there, I want you guys to listen to this video. This video is intended for you. I know you guys are going to listen to every word I say. But regardless, we have a very special message for you because we've come to the point that we have to let you guys in on what you're doing. So if you're confused and you think that you're actually working for the good of society, we want you to know that you're actually working for the detriment of the society, and you should not be confused. We're going to show you some things that you should pay attention to. So regardless of that, if it's your first time on our channel, I'd like to welcome you all the same. Today we have a couple of things that we want to get off our chest. We're going to be talking about the Serena Williams United States Open saga, in which she's not a she, but he had a meltdown, and because Naomi Osaka was winning, a lot of people watching that particular drama series on the U.S. Open would have thought that maybe that was just Serena, being Serena. But the truth is, even though Serena is a transgender at this point, you have to understand that the outburst that Serena had wasn't just a regular outburst. That is a child trying to break from programming, in the sense that her whole life, or his whole life, has been controlled. But we wouldn't understand it. So if you noticed, in most US Opens, Serena is always speaking about one thing or the other. Maybe she didn't like a call or whatever. That is someone actually, that's a child, and it breaks my heart just talking about that. That's a child trying to break free from the programming that the Vatican, which has programmed her since childhood to be a woman. Because you will hear in those Serena tirades, she was saying something like other men. That means that he's at conflict knowing what she is, but not being able to live out her life, or his life, as it's supposed to be. And it breaks my heart to see that, because I can understand that. So a lot of people don't understand when I say programming here. I want you to understand that you cannot program anybody if you haven't trained them from childhood to be the way they are. In Serena Williams' case, you would have known that he's been a child star right from the get-go. So that means all through his life, he's been trained to act and be a certain way. And what you guys saw at the US Open in 2018 was someone trying to break free. That means a child, all right, getting tired of being, told what to do, what to say, and trying to, break free from that. And the best way I can explain this is to a lot of guys. If you've been through a lot of trauma in your life, I can speak about this because I have been through a lot of trauma in my own life. If you've been through a lot of trauma in your life, there's certain things that you have an anchor for that keeps you sane and gives you the ability to be a normal person. Okay, there's certain anchors that you have. So for people who have been through trauma, let's say the best example I could say here is like if you've seen someone is addicted to smoking, all right, or someone is addicted to drinking, someone's addicted to one thing or the other, or certain addictions that they have is like an anchor for trying to be sane. Okay, that keeps their sanity in check, so they don't, you know, um, lose their minds because of what's going on around them and all the pressures that's being heaped upon them. So for someone like Serena, for I could speak personally for myself before I get to Serena Williams. For someone like myself, every time I've been under pressure, for anything and everything, like I said, I've been through a lot of trauma myself. The only way, the only place I could find, you know, that solace and quietness from all the trauma and just try to shut everything else that's happening around me was always working out. So if I had a bad day, I'm having a bad day, I'm having pressure and trauma from one thing or the other. I wouldn't go into details about that. The only thing I would do was work out. Wherever I could find myself, I would be working out. I would be either in a gym or somewhere just working out. And whenever I did that, a lot of my troubles would feel so small because I had a good release, of energy from working out that made me feel good. So transferring that to Serena Williams, what you guys actually saw over there in the U.S. Open, because a lot of people will say, will get into the point and say, she's a man pretending. You always have to temper, judgment with mercy. If you don't have judgment with mercy, you're falling into the same things that the Vatican is doing, in which they're, killing us and doing all sorts of things without mercy. So you have to be merciful, temper judgment with mercy, but you have to draw a fine line at when you do that. For me, for someone like me, if I draw a fine line and I found out that you are actually very, very ignorant, foolish, and stupid, I'm really not going to have any time to deal with you. If I find out that consistently that you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're not willing, all right, you know what you're doing, you don't want to change it, you know what you're doing is actually bad, but you still try to find, you still think that someone should be merciful for you, merciful to you rather, in what you're doing when you're intentionally doing what you're doing. I'm just going to draw a fine line and know, okay, this is someone that's not to be dealt with as a very sane person. We'll just throw them out. So when you're dealing with people who are going through a lot of trauma, you have to draw that fine line to know, okay, this person is someone who's trying to, maybe change their perception and reality of life for the better because it's going negative or downhill. You have to draw that fine line and know, I can hang with this person and deal with this person to help them, or we just throw them out and know that it's of no use. Because that's the way, the Creator deals with us. So whatsoever that's coming upon the world, which we're going to be talking about, because like we said, we have a special message for the Vatican today, is that judgment and mercy is tempered together with Yahweh. He doesn't just outrightly deal with people and judge them and say, okay, it's about time we put you in the trash bin. He makes sure that he gives you enough time to make that assessment that you have actually made the choice to go the direction you're going, and then judgment comes on you. So when people, even though we feature a lot of transgenders on our channel, I want you guys to understand this, that as much as we're trying to expose the evil that's being heaped upon us, you guys should also not get into the line of, uh, using or seeing these people in such a way that the hatred that you have um, kind of makes you want to, treat them in a bad way. You have to also give them the time limit to see if you're willing to accept what they really are and come out truthfully for it before you can make that assessment and judgment and say, okay, this person is never going to change. There is no need for us to deal with them and then throw them out. So going back to the Serena Williams case, Serena, the outburst that she had, or he had rather, because it's a he, is actually someone trying to be free, right? Because if you notice that he was making so many wrong statements during that outburst. For example, Serena Williams said something like, other men do this and they don't get punished for it. So that means in her mind and mentality, he does recognize that he's a man. But the programming that she's been going through since childhood is saying that he's a she. So that's why she used that kind of words, other men. Because if you're, let's say you're male or female, and you want to talk about something that's happening to you, you're not going to dress yourself out of the gender that you are. So let's say, for example, I'm a man, okay? I'm going to say, when I'm dressing myself, I'm going to dress myself in the terms of saying that, other men like me don't do what I do, or you allow other men get away with whatsoever they do, but you punish me for it. In the same case with a woman, if you're a woman, you're going to say other women, or I'm not like other women. You're not going to say something like what Serena Williams said in saying that other men when she's actually a woman. So that's a sign of someone trying to break free from the programming that's been heaped upon her all her entire life. So I'm going to play that short clip of that so you guys can hear us say that, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
Calling you a thief. And that's not right. This is not fair. This has happened to me too many times. This is not fair. This is not fair. But to give me a point to lose a game for what we're saying, that is not fair. I mean, it's really not. Yeah. But you know how many other men do things that are, I don't think they do much worse than that. This is not fair. There's a lot of men out here that have said a lot of things, and because they're men, that doesn't happen to them. This is unbelievable. No, I don't know the reason, because if I say a simple thing, a thief, because he stole a point from me, that does not make, because there are men out here that do likewise, but because I'm a woman. Because I'm a woman, you're going to take this away from me? That is not right.
So what you just watched is actually somebody in a very deep traumatic state, because since I believe that the only thing that would, because when you're in trauma, there are certain things that only that you love doing that, gives you some sanity. And in Serena Williams' case here, it would be the game of tennis. So seeing that she's actually on court and seeing that being taken away from her, all right, she's having an outburst. And that outburst is she's actually trying to break free and be who he should naturally be. And that's why she's using such words as other men and talking about other men, because in her mind, she knows that she's a man, but she's being trained to be a woman. So I'll play the clip one more time, and then we'll get over and talk about some few other things.
Things that are, I don't think they do much worse than that. It's not fair. This is not fair. But to give me a point to lose a game for what we're saying, that is not fair. I mean, it's really not. Yeah. But you know how many other men do things that are, I don't think they do much worse than that. This is not fair. There's a lot of men out here that have said a lot of things, and because they're men, that doesn't happen. woman, you're going to take this away from me? That is not right. You know it, and I know you can't admit it, but I know you know it's not right. I know you can't change it, but I'm just saying, that's not right. I get the rules. I get the rules, but I'm just saying it's not right. It happened to me in this tournament every single year that I play. It's just not fair. That's all I have to say. It's not fair.
Serena's played 18 U.S. Opens, and she may feel like it happens every.
So that's just what I wanted to show you guys, that it's actually a break in programming that you guys actually watch live on TV, but you didn't understand. But because your mind is so, so focused on the fact that Serena is actually a man pretending to be a woman, you have to understand that he was taken from being a child. It's not something that any of these transgenders willingly do, except for the adult ones who are old, people like, Bruce Jenner, who actually want to think that they're something they're not. So these are actually children. So when you're judging people, always remember to have mercy first before you have judgment. That's the right way to go. Because the way that we work in our world is that we have judgment first before mercy. Have mercy first. Mercy in the sense that try to understand the story. Try to understand the type of person you're dealing with. And then when you understand who you're dealing with, that this person is the way they are and that they're never going to change, then you can pass judgment. So that's just what I wanted to share with you. I have some few things that I want to talk about. It's going to be a long video, so if you can't sit through a long video, I advise that you pause the video and quit right here. So let's move on. So I want to talk about something that I quite noticed. I didn't quite pay attention, but we were actually going to a museum. We were trying to take pictures of something that's very pertinent in all the lies that's being told to us about history. And while trying to go to this museum, we started noticing. I noticed something though, and I had to call, some of the people that I was with to also take notice of this. We were in a street, and there's this man. He's an elderly man. I would say he's actually a black man, elderly, and elderly in the sense that he's could be in his 50s. And this man was trying to do some excavation. So there's this property that's on a certain street, on a street that we noticed since we were around the area, and we're always passing through the streets. And the street in such a way that we have to walk by it, before we get to wherever we're going. And we noticed that there was always this man coming out with, he had shovels, he had a digger, he would drive his car up, park the car, and he would bring out, he had this mechanical digger that he was using. And he's an elderly man, and you could see that this is a man who's, just a very simple man. And he just started excavating a property. The property is his. Now, why is this man excavating the property? Recently, a lot of people may not be aware. If you live in a city, a particular nice city, and you have an open property that's not developed, the Vatican recently passed a law, especially if you're in the United States, that you have to develop that property. Otherwise, that property is going to be taken away from you because it's in a city. So this man would get up, every day we walked by, we saw this man in the excavator digging, right? Trying to develop the property. So you have to excavate your property first, set the foundations right for whatever you want to build before you can build it. So this man was going through digging, and I would see him there, at night. He would have, his floodlights on. Sometimes I would see him during the day, and he would still be digging. And I was like, wow, can this man pay, for somebody to do this job? And then it just dawned on me. that, the Vatican is making this man do what he wouldn't naturally do because he's afraid that his little property that he has is going to be taken away. Mind you, this property is very, very small. I would say it would be the size of maybe let's say a two bedroom house or bungalow, whatever you want to call it. So this man is digging day and night, trying to make sure that within the timeline that the Vatican has given out these orders that all properties within certain city places have to be developed, otherwise the property is going to be taken away from you, and he doesn't want to lose it. So he's in here with his mask, and it's in the summer, digging all the time. After the man has been digging for like close to almost 2 weeks and has gotten um you know um the the excavating and the foundations deep enough to start building, some city people came over and locked up. They put signs on the man's property on this digging site and said that the man should not dig anymore until he has all the what is it called? All the permissions and the city papers, uh, you know, before he can continue his excavation. So that made me ask some questions. First of all, the question is, why do you have to get city papers for any excavation dig? Because it now made me to look into some of the city laws that was going around that before you can excavate something, before you can start a digging process, you have to get, you know, city permits to do that. So even inside your own property in the United States of America, you can't even excavate. It's against the law. Why is that so much of interest? So what you're looking at now here is a website on a New York Public Service Commission, right? That talks about excavation. You could pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link. If you read through this particular law, it says that the New York State Public Service Commission wants to remind excavators, contractors, and homeowners that state law requires them to call one of the state's toll-free one-call centers before starting any excavation or digging projects. Why does the Vatican, because all city laws and state laws in the United States and all around the world come from the Vatican, why are they so much interested in you making sure that you get the city permits? Because one of the lies they're going to tell you, the reason for these laws is that you have like underground gas lines, electricity lines, or whatever they want to tell you, all right, that you could break open while doing an excavation. Partly true and partly very false, because the Vatican always likes using truth to control the narrative of what's actually going on. The reason for all this is this. There is so much history in the ground. I want you guys to listen to me very carefully. There is so much history in the ground because there are dead remains of houses, human beings, and stuff that if you dig up, all right, is going to shed more light on the reality of our world and is going to make you understand real history. So the Vatican doesn't want you going digging and finding stuff that you should not be finding without them not having the ability to control that information that you have excavated out. All right? So that's the reason for all these crazy state laws against excavation and digging. So I want you guys to remember this because we talked about this on Tricks of the S Trade when we made the video called The Real Presidents. We talked about the fact that there is a lot of history hanging around that you may not know of because you don't know what you're sitting on top of. So if you're excavating All right. And there's a possibility for you to be able to do that excavation, because I don't see any reason why you have a property that you can do whatever you want to do. All right. I want you guys to know that when you're excavating, whether you have the city permits or not, you should always be mindful that you could have a treasure of gold that can shed more light on our real history so that we can understand the world. And speaking of that, there's something else I want to show you, which I was just watching stuff on YouTube, and this came across me. I came across it. I came across it. So let me just show you that first before we continue on. So what I wanted to talk about was the fact that how the Vatican contorts lies and uses truth to control a reality with the lies that they heap on top of it. I was watching a YouTube channel. I used to watch this YouTube channel just out of curiosity. It's called a plaintruth.info. So the channel is called a plaintruth.info here. Now, on this particular video that this guy from a plaintruth.info did, it's titled Negroid Black U.S. Prehistory Part 2, Queen Khalifa of which California was named. You could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link, or just go to a Plain Truth. There's a channel. The channel is called plaintruth.info right here, a plaintruth.info, and look for this particular video called Negroid / Black U.S. Prehistory Part 2, Queen Khalifa of which California was named. Now, if you watch this particular video, we're going to play bits and portions of it for you to understand what we're talking about. Now, if you're looking at the screen right here, if you're looking at this right here, it says race and history, black civilizations of ancient America. So when it's talking about America, it's talking about both North and South America. And here you can see it puts it in parentheses, Mulan and Mexico. It says gigantic stone head of Negritic African during the Olmec Sea civilization. All right. Now, I'm going to point you to that particular website so you guys can go look it up yourselves. Pause the video at any point in time, copy out the link, and go read up. It says Black civilizations of ancient America, Mulan, Mexico, Sea, gigantic stone head of Negritic African during the Olmec civilization. Now, if you look at this picture right here, I'm hovering my mouse right over it, of an Olmec statue. What you would notice is that distinctively that these features of this face still look like the current Mexicans or people of Mexico who have straight hair and pale skin today. Now, if you read this particular history, let me just read a short bit of it. Like I said, you could pause the video, copy out this link, and go read up yourself. It says, the earliest people in the Americas were people of the Negritic African race who entered the Americas perhaps as early as 100,000 years ago. So what this history always tries to make, or what the Vatican always tries to make, because they're the ones writing our history today, is that if you notice, the world tells you a lot about African history, all right, from people who are not African, all right? That's one thing you have to notice. You also notice that the history of Asia, all right, of which everybody who's white today or has straight hair comes from, is not always a kind of popular history that you hear. So in most cases, when you want to hear, when they want to talk about Asian history, they'll rather just talk about history pre to the time of the First World War and then the Second World War. But anything further beyond that, or anything earlier than that, is all muddled up, and nobody gets to tell you anything about it. But when it comes to especially anything that has to do with African history, because you have to understand this, when I say African history, I'm talking about Africans. I'm not talking about black people, all right? Because the Vatican all wants us to believe that that every black person around the world is African, all right? you tend to find out that they always, when they're talking about African history, they are the ones who are mostly, telling you this great African histories from a perspective that's not even African. Why is that the case? You have to understand this. Now, looking at what we are reading right here, this is how the Vatican lies to people and makes people confused a lot. They tell you that black people have been in the Americas about 100,000 years ago, as you can see right here. I'm going to play the clip and you hear that guy narrate the story, the guy from a plaintruth.info. So the question now arises, if the so-called African people, because they always try to give you this story that black people in the Americas came from Africa. So if you read the story right here by this guy called Paul Barton, he's going to say, the earliest people in the Americas were people of the Negritic African race who entered the Americas perhaps as early as 100,000 years ago by way of the Bering Strait, and about 30,000. You see, the Vatican Code of Numbers is right, is right here. 30,000 years ago, in a worldwide maritime undertaking that included journeys from then wet and lake-filled Sahara towards the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, and from West Africa across the Atlantic Ocean towards the Americas. According to the Gladwin thesis, this ancient journey occurred particularly about 75,000 years ago and included black pygmies, black negritic peoples, and black Australoids similar to the aboriginal black people of Australia and parts of Asia, including India. So the reason why they're trying to explain all this away, because people of Hispanic descent currently have this kind of pygmy features, all right? They're shorter and they're not as tall as, the other maybe Hispanic people around. Now, why is that the case? The reason is the black people who were bred out by the Asians who now call themselves white, who came over to the South Americas and Americas and overtook colonies from the black Europeans who they had destroyed through civil wars and strife under a fake peace during the times that Europe was changing from black to white. These people of Mexico were shorter black people, which they call pygmies today. So that's why a lot of the Hispanic people have the same features, because their great forefathers who've been bred out, killed, or whatsoever, and genetically changed through a breeding process, still share those Africoid short features. When you get a book, we explain all that in detail, and you see some of those pictures of the surviving Hispanics who are still black with woolly hair. Now, getting back to what I was saying, the truth is slowly starting to come out, and people are starting to recognize that there are a lot of black artifacts all around the world which do not show that the current people who have now straight hair, have no semblance to. So why is that the case? So in order to control this story, the truth of what's going on, of these artifacts popping up everywhere around the world, they try to sell you the lie that it happened so many years ago. So that's always how the Vatican is trying to sell you the lie. So for example, if you read this story, it says that the people of Mexico, the Olmec civilization existed 100,000 years ago, because they do not want you to understand that the people in Mexico have been bred out, and bred out is less than 4 generations. That means if you go back 400 years ago, that means your great-great-grandfather 400 years ago, if you're from Mexico, was black with woolly hair. And so were everybody around that area. They've always been black with woolly hair. But when people are starting to understand this story, they try to make you believe that the black people who existed 100,000 years ago, so that you could believe in such theories as the theories of evolution, that theories of evolution and mutants or mutant genetic traits now made those black people to evolve into the straight haired people who are actually albinos today, living in Mexico and every other area around Southern America. So that's how the Vatican controls this narrative of, and they always want you to believe that everybody who's black came from Africa. So this whole entire story from this man called A Plain Truth right here is tying into that. They're telling you truth, but they're constructing it in such a way to fit the current narrative of what's going on, so that you can always believe the slave stories and the slave ideologies that black people in the Americas came from Africa. I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to show you how all this ties in, and I'll say some few more things, but I'll play this clip for a while, and I'll come back and say some few more things to this effect, and then we can continue on and talk about who we are featuring today on today's video, and that very special message that we have for the Vatican.
Part 2 on the history of ancient blacks in the United States, in the North America and South America, and how they were here a lot longer than even the Native Americans, which Columbus called Indians because he couldn't find India. So we're talking Native Americans, and then we're talking Native Americans as long as 100,000 years ago. Now, I'm going to talk about the history of California, how it was named California. I did a previous piece on the history of America and why it's named America, and I'm getting flack from my friends about calling them on the use of the name America when I'm asking if they mean South America, Central America, or Canada. They get mad at me, but they should be using the words United States, not America, so I'm trying to correct them. A History of the African Olmecs, Black Civilizations of America from Prehistoric Times to the Present Era by Paul Alfred Barton, originally written in 1998. This is a very good book, very important book. The earliest people in the Americas were people of the Negritic African race Negroids, who entered the Americas perhaps as early as 100,000 years ago by way of the Bering Strait, and about 30,000 years ago in a worldwide maritime undertaking that included journeys from the then wet and lake-filled Sahara towards the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, and from West Africa across the Atlantic Ocean towards the Americas. According to the Gladwin thesis, this ancient journey occurred particularly about 75,000 years ago and included black pygmies, black Negritic peoples, and black Australoids, Australia, similar to the Aboriginal people of Australia and parts of Asia, including India. Now, this part about the journey here. So a quick sidebar here for those that question that the Sahara Desert was tropical at one time. This is from the Perry Reese map of Antarctica. 1929, a group of historians found a map drawn on a gazelle skin. Research showed there was a genuine document from 1513 by Perry Reese, a famous admiral in the Turkish fleet in the 16th century, 1500s. The Perry Reese map shows the western coast of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and the northern coast of Antarctica ice-free. The northern coastline of Antarctica is perfectly detailed. Puzzling is how Perry's Antarctica map managed to be so accurate 300 years before it was discovered. All right, and then I'm going to read the rest of this from this book because it's not included and I can't get the PDF on this.
So I paused the video to talk about a few things because if you're ever going to watch the plaintruth.info right here and watch this particular video called Negroid/Black US Prehistory Part 2, Queen Khalifa, of which California was named. Now, one of the things that the Vatican loves doing in confusing a lot of people about history, especially from reading from this article, which you will find on the plaintruth.info, the video that you just watched. It's going to say something like Black Civilizations of Ancient America, Mulan, Mexico, gigantic stonehead of Negritic African during the Olmec 11 civilization. So if you keep on reading, he says the earliest people in the Americas were people of the Negritic African race who entered the Americas perhaps as early as 100,000 years ago. Now, if you take a look at the modern day Mexicans, which are actually albino or albinic skin, or people of albino origins, that means their hair is straight and the skin is much more paler, you'll notice that the features of the Mexicans still resemble the features of this particular statue, this Olmec statue that you find here. It's just that right now they look different in the sense that they have, paler skin and the hair is straight. And the normal question that somebody should ask is this: what happened to those black people who were living in the areas of North America, South America, and places like Mexico, in particular that we're talking about right here, and plaintruth.info is going to be talking about what happened to them? Because the logical question is for you to ask that, because it says that they were there 100,000 years ago, right? And if you also notice in a plaintruth.info, they're always going to try to keep a separation and call all black people African, like the article will say here, that negritic African race, right? They'll always try to keep that separation because they'll always try to make you think and believe that all black people came from Africa. So, but the logical question that anybody should ask is, what happened to those people? 100,000 years ago, they were existing, and then all of a sudden, they were gone. Because if, for example, let's say people, modern day Japanese right now, who happen to be, pale skin, and they have a straight hair, happened to disappear, all right? Let's say 100 or 200 years from now, and are replaced by somebody who look totally different than what you see right now. The logical question to ask is, what happened to those people? Because people don't just disappear. People just don't disappear from an area. Because if you go throughout all history, you still find out that people are still living in the same area that was inhabited a couple of years or millennia ago. So what happened to this so-called negritic African people? Because as you will watch and listen to a plaintruth.info, it will tell you that this African people existed before the Native Americans. So if they existed before Native Americans, where did they go? How did it happen to be that they disappeared and then the Native Americans appeared? That's a very normal question that anybody with common sense should ask. So first of all, what you have to understand is this. The so-called, negritic African people, as they call it, because they are not from Africa. It's just a name that the Vatican gives so that they can always make you believe that everybody black came from Africa, and they came on slave boats and were slaves in North and the South American continent or anywhere else in the world. They always want to make you believe that. So first of all, these people did not disappear. And secondly, it was not 100,000 years, as this particular article tells you that they existed 100,000 years ago. They were not 100,000 years ago. They still existed till 250 years ago. And even in Mexico, you can still find people of dark skin origins with woolly hair still in Mexico. They are the remnants of what happened during that time period. Because the truth is this. Let's just ask a very logical question. What would make black people disappear? Let's use today's modern era to explain that. So, for example, you have to understand that anybody who has straight hair is an albino. And the general word that we use for anybody who has straight hair is white, all right? But white is not a reference to a color. Being white does not mean that you're actually white, like a white sheet of paper. It actually means that you have a lack of melanin, because that's the origin of the word. The origin of the word for white, when it concerns people, comes from the Latin word albus, which means a lack of melanin. So the question that we're going to answer using today's modern setting is this. In Mexico, you have to understand that let's just use today's modern setting and explain it a little bit far better. You have to understand that today, right now, that, white folk have the best jobs in the world. When we say white folk here, we're talking about anybody who has straight hair, right? They have the best jobs. The economies are far better than any black populated countries around the world. Why is that the case? Because the people running the world in the first place, who are actually Asians, but today call themselves Europeans and white, when they took over Europe, right? And then from Europe, they came down to North and South America and started stealing the lands of the aboriginal natives, which was black with woolly hair. You have to understand that the first step in every slavery is to steal the lands. When you take land ownership away from the aboriginal people, they cannot plant their own crops, they cannot grow their own animals to survive. And you have to remember that about 250 years ago, money was considered to be silver or gold, all right, currency. So you can imagine that these people, the so-called Vatican, took away the lands of the Aboriginal people, all right, whether in North America, South America, and places like Mexico. They took away their land, they stole their land away from them, they had the guns, and from now these people are trying to survive. And in order to survive, you must either become a slave or an indentured servant. And life is so hard because when you look at the color of their skin and they're black with woolly hair, they are automatically downgraded in society because that's what's even happening today. So you can imagine that in that time period, all right, that a lot of people were in servitude. They had no jobs. They couldn't grow their own crops and couldn't grow their own animals. So the only way to be counted as one of the population so they can get benefits is by marrying, all right, or agreeing to their slave masters to be bred out. So a lot of the parents of that Mexican generation would start procreating with their slave masters to get ahead in life. And that bred out a lot of the black woolly haired people and changed them to what we have today, in which they are now straight haired, pale hair, with pale skin Mexicans. Changed them. So that is what happened. Because when you take an economy, all right, like it's happening today in modern day society today, a lot of people hate the color of their skin because it's black and the texture of their hair. So what do they try to do to get ahead in society? They procreate with people who have pale skin, all right, and straight hair so they can get better jobs. So imagine in that time period 250 years ago, in which it was very, very severe. That is what led to the breeding out of all the majority of the Mexicans, rather, in places of like Mexico, in short. So that's what happened. So today, as we see in society, white folk get the best jobs, they get all the benefits. Whether you're qualified or not, they get it at the detriment of black people. And when that happens, naturally, it's natural for you to try to get ahead of society or try to be included in society. What happens is that you are going to want your children, all right, to come out looking like the people who are ruling over you so that they can get ahead in life and will not have to go through what you're going through, or they can find a way when the children get that way, they can get ahead in life and then help you. So that's what happened in Mexico. The people did not just leave and quit and then Native Americans arrived. They were bred out. They were bred from being black with woolly hair to what they call the Native Americans today in Mexico and all around places of North America. And now everybody that's black with woolly hair is considered African American when they're actually the true natives, the aboriginal people, the true Native Americans all around the continent of North America and South America. So I'll just pause there and I'll play I'll talk about a few more things, then continue on, so we can get to the portion in which I have a very special message for the Vatican.
So, the Olmecs, the very name California, may be of pre-Columbian African origins. That name originated from the name of the legendary black Amazon queen Calafia, who existed in California before the Spanish invasion. During that period, the Spanish believed that California was inhabited by blacks, as we just said. Moreover, documentation exists which includes photographs, logs, paintings, and living descendants of the pre-Columbian black Californians, which verify the fact that California and much of the Southwest, later stolen and occupied by the Spanish, let's say the Jesuits, missions, and their descendants, was once the land of the black people. This land was not fully occupied until the late 1800s, and California made its state union in 1854, I believe, something like that. Many of these native black Americans moved into the cities where they blended in with the African American population migrating from Mexico and the southern United States. John J.A. Rogers presents a photograph of one of these real and legitimate owners of California and the Southwest in his book, Africa's Gift to America, J.A. Rogers. Other books show these blacks herded by Spanish Californios on horseback just before the period of the American occupation of California. Ironically, today, these same invaders' descendants, lacking the facts or pretending to suffer historical amnesia, want to claim California and the southern West as theirs, whereas the entire region belonged to no other than the black race, who have lived in the region since prehistoric times. In North America, particularly the continental United States, the presence of the black Californians of California and the Southwest, who are more native to this region than any of blended and other blended ethnic groups who originated in the West and Southwest after the coming of the Spanish, the Ochita of the Mississippi region, of Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi, the Yamasee of the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, the Afro-Daryanites of the Isthmus of Panama, who continue to follow the pre-Columbian lifestyle similar to other, quote, Indians in the region, are all members of prehistoric pre-Columbian African people who may have sailed either across the Atlantic, the Pacific, or walked across the Bering Straits. Apart from these blacks are the Churros of Brazil, a number of isolated black Negroid, quote, Indian communities who reside in the coastal and mountainous regions of northern South America. The Pan-Caribs, the Garifuna, who number in the hundreds of thousands to millions, both on their own lands and living in their urban areas through Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and the United States, are among a large group of black peoples of prehistoric and pre-Columbian African origins who exist today. Revisionist history indeed. The Negroids, the blacks, which we call African Americans, were here before the, quote, Native American Indians, Native Americans, who I call them. Columbus again, the only thing Columbus discovered was how he was lost, and and all the rest of the flat earth memes that came out of that as well. So anyway, I just wanted to follow up with that. California, the name of it, Queen Calafia, from the Queen of Africa, and we need to understand our history a little bit better, and hopefully this helps you understand the history of the naming of California, and I'll include in the show notes the naming of the history of the naming of America as well, which is from South American descent. All right, plain truth out, peace. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
And then, if you heard what a plain truth.info said, they're always trying to use the truth to control you. If you listen to the story very well, they say that African Americans, or the black people who came to the Americas, came through maybe the Bering Straits or sailed. So all that story is still trying to make you believe that, black people in the United States and all across the Americas came from Africa, because that's why they tell you that they sailed or walked down the Bering Straits. Okay? Now, next thing that they also try to make you believe in this false narrative of history is bringing people like J.A. Rogers. Now, a lot of people actually believe that J.A. Rogers is a real student of black history, and that whatsoever he tells you, is actually truth. You have to understand something. A lot of the histories that we read, right, are written by people who work for the Vatican. So J.A. Rogers here could have been real, or he could have been fabricated, or he may not even have been the personality that you people assume to be J.A. Rogers. Now, how do you know? The question now to ask is, how can you tell if J.A. Rogers is a stooge? This is the first thing that you have to understand. When a stooge mentions somebody else in the system of albino supremacy that's running our world today, you have to understand that the history of whatsoever they tell you has to be control history. So you can't go mentioning somebody's name that you haven't vetted. Because if you mention someone's name that's not vetted, and people hear that, they're going to look into the history of that person. And if that person was a solid person who was telling you the truth, then people are going to be discovering much more truth by just looking into the history of that personality. So what am I saying? It's more like you're working for a company, okay? If you're an employee of the company and you want to talk about something that's pertaining to the history of that company, you can't go mentioning someone that is not in that company, because the focus will now be shifted from your company to that company. So the only way you can be safe so that you guys can have all the accolades is to make sure that whatsoever name you mention still has to be an employee of the company. So the focus stays on the company and people actually believe that the company is as great as you make it sound. So that is how you know that someone is a stooge, because they're also going to mention another stooge. So for example, nobody's going to talk about Tricks of the S Trade, because if they talk about Tricks of the S Trade, they are giving more publicity. And when people start looking into our work, then they're going to say, oh, so these guys were actually doing great work. So you don't want to do that. So the best thing to do is not to mention anybody, or mention somebody that you know that is one of yours. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, how I make that assertion, we once made a video and we mentioned that Henry Louis Gates here, right here, serves the system of white supremacy or albino supremacy that is at work today. So Henry Louis Gates here on his page mentions J.A. Rogers' work. Why would you mention why would he mention J.A. Rogers' work? Because J.A. Rogers is one of the approved historians that the albino supremacists in the Vatican can use to control the narrative of world history. And J.A. Rogers has sold so many lies to the black community, especially of the Americas, that his work is outstanding. But if you read through this particular page, you can pause the video at any point in time. You find out that J.A. Rogers is featured by Henry Louis Gates. And one of the things that you will notice is that it says that one of his books, let me read it out. It says, let me just read it from a verse that you can understand. It's talking about one of the books of J.A. Rogers. It says, among those titles, the works of Rogers were especially fascinating for the range of the author's ambition and imagination, such as his pioneering analysis of sex and race, published in 3 volumes. Do you notice that? That's the Vatican Code of Numbers, between 1941 and 1944. And if I can recall to memory what was going on around here in 1941 and 1944, it was roughly the time that Hitler was coming into power around this time, right? And you had the Second World War, I think, rolling out. So this book was written about this time. Why? Because it was the time that the albino elite, the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan, were trying to rewrite history. That is what they were doing. So J.A. Rogers here has no truth. He has some truth, but there's a lot of falsehoods about it, so you can all sell the narrative that all black people came from Africa. So he still goes down that narrative that they were slaves. That's all what this is about. So I just wanted to make you guys see how these stories are told, so that it keeps on confusing people, and people never ask such good questions as, if there were black people, all right, in Mexico and North and South America 100,000 years ago, Where did they go? Nobody does ask that question. Because when you ask that question, you start discovering that there is a lot of lies involved. And they also, to make sure that these lies are even much more greater, they give you such timelines as 100,000 years ago. No. In Mexico, 250 years ago, they were all black people with woolly hair. None of them had straight hair and pale skin. And they still have some leftover people in Mexico who still have black features. They have black woolly hair and the same features that you see in so many of these statues, because they were the aboriginal people of Mexico and have been bred out by the Europeans, who are actually Asians who came over there about 300 years ago. That's just that. This 100,000 year range is all false. Okay, so with that, let's move over and get into that special message that we have for the Vatican before we can feature who we are going to talk about or who we're transvestigating on today's video. And for those who like fast forwarding a lot, they're going to do a lot of fast forwarding to know where the transgender part of the video starts. So let's do that. So this is the part of the video that I had that we're making, that we are making a very special message for the Vatican, because we know the Vatican does listen in on our videos. And whosoever that's working for them, you have a bunch of people who are working for them. They are made to sit down and watch every video that we make, and make some analysis, report it to YouTube, and get to know and have a feel of what the channel is all about and how all this information are gauged. Or rather, just to know the information that we do know about them. So this is a very special message for you. Now, I'm going to start this message by saying that anybody else who's watching this video, you should take a pen and a paper, pause this video right here, take a pen and a paper, and start writing some things down that you're going to hear, because it's going to make a whole lot of sense by the end of this particular section. So, but nevertheless, this is the part that we are talking to the people who work for the Vatican via YouTube. Whether you're a Freemason, you're a technician in a room, getting all the information from these videos and just passing it across, trying to feed, the information super machinery that the Vatican has put in place to make sure that they know what the public knows and to gauge where they're at. I want to start by reading something from a particular website which I know is owned by the Vatican right here. And you can pause the video at any point in time. And for the many listeners working for the Vatican, pause the video and this link, and you can go look it up yourself. Now, this particular article says here, the post-World War II New World Order map, a proposal to rearrange the world after an Allied victory, revealed by Irish historian Thomas Moriarty. Now, we read here, it says, published in Philadelphia in early 1942. This outline of the post-war New World map created by the Maurice Gumberg shows a proposal to rearrange the world after an Allied victory against the Axis forces. Its title refers to a new world order, a vague concept, its many definitions often contradicting each other. At the core of the New World Order, however, is always the notion that a small group of powerful individuals, institutions, industries, and or nations must lead the world in the right direction towards unification. This may be against the world's own will and therefore done covertly, at least in some versions of the New World Order story, but ultimately it is for its own good. So here is a map of how, the Vatican rearranged the world. Like I said, this section of the video is especially for you guys in the Vatican. You're a Jesuit, you're a politician, you're a president, you're a Mason, you're working on YouTube right here listening to this particular video. To any of you guys out there who are running things in this world, because this message is for you, so you understand that whatsoever you're doing, that you're just living in denial because it was written that you will do it. So if you find yourself doing it, that means you're fulfilling something that was written about you. And I want to make it very clear so that you guys understand this. And for anybody else who's watching this part of the video, take a pen and a paper and follow me with whatsoever I'm saying from here on out. Now, in this particular picture that you're looking at, all right, you can notice that this map is all wrong in the first place, because Africa here should be the largest continent and every other continent around it should fit into it. So it should be the largest continent in terms of size to actually give us a portrayal of the true size of the continents of the world. So this map, first and foremost, is wrong regardless, and it's the wrong orientation as well. So that's what I want you guys to take notice of. Now, I'm going to go to a UN map, all right? All right, now this is the UN map for this same map right here, okay? I want you guys to take particular notice of the colors that are representing each of this map. I know it's very, very small, but you can pause the video and copy out this particular link right here and go look it up yourself. This link is actually at United States, is at the unitednations.org. It talks about the regional groupings in which the world today has been grouped into, which a lot of people are not aware of. Okay, the world has been grouped into 10 groupings so that they can be united under the unification that you guys read about here, that post World War II, that the world, all right, that it shows a proposal to rearrange the world after an Allied victory against the Axis forces. Its title refers to a new world order, a vague concept. Its many definitions often contradicting each other, right? So this is the groupings that the Vatican has grouped the world into, which they are trying to make the world into, trying to make the current status of the world to merge into these 10 groups. So, for example, you guys have heard of such thing as NAFTA, all right? You've heard of what's the other word right there? Something that joins the United States and Europe together to form a very big continent. And this is what you're looking at with the colors of this map. So if you can notice right here, United States, this is Canada right here, United States in green, Greenland right here is in green also. You can see that Europe is in the color of green as well as Russia, and including Australia. They're all colored green, and New Zealand. I can't really increase this. Let me see if I can make this larger so you guys can see clearly. Okay, I've blown it up as much as I can. So you can notice these are all green. And then Mexico right here is in a different color. Shade of you, if you want to call it brown, and South America all here together is in a different color. Now we go to Africa, and you find that Africa has been divided into 2 colors. One is darkly brown and one's a little bit lighter brown on top. You can see right here that the part that's called the United Arab Emirates, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and I think Iraq and Iran, it's all in a different color. And the side that it's in India, which would include places like, I think, I'm not too sure if it's Afghanistan or so, but all these countries close to India right here, it's a different color. China is in a different color right here. And the Caucasus mountains and areas close to Turkey is in a different color. And this part of Japan right here, Japan, Korea, all these islands right here in a different color. And there's another color right here which is very, very small, and this is the color of like the Oceania countries around here, or the Indian countries. I'm not sure which oceans right around there. Now if we look at the let's say the little what do we call it, legend right here, let's call that a legend. you would see that the colors are representative of something that the Vatican has worked into, and we're gonna go into looking at those colors and how they denote them in this particular picture of the map of the world of how it's been grouped. So for the green color right here, they say it's developed country. This color right here is, they say, there's Caucasus and Central Asia. This color right here says Northern Africa right here. This one says Sub-Saharan Africa right here. All right, the color right there. And this one says Latin American. That's the color right there. It says Eastern Asia. Eastern Asia is the one right over here. Southern Asia is the part of India that we just showed you earlier. And Southeastern Asia is the yellow part right here. Western Asia is the part of Saudi Arabia right here, and Oceania is this side right here with blue. Now, if you count the number of regions in which this groupings has been divided into, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I want you to take special attention to the number. So the world has been divided into 10 groupings. Now I'm talking to the Vatican right here, so I want you guys to listen very carefully. You're a Freemason, you're somebody who doesn't believe in the Creator and all that. I want you to understand that you guys have divided up the world into 10 regions. Now I want to ask you this question now. For the Vatican, where did you get this idea from, that the world should be divided into 10 regions? And this has been implemented since World War II. I'm asking you guys a question. Where did you get this fine idea from, that the world should be divided into 10 regions for the best control of resources and everything else? And I'm going to point you to a Bible. So for those who do not believe that everything that the Bible says is true, I'm going to point you to the book of Revelations. Now, for anybody that's listening to this section of the video, please take your pen and your paper, all right? And for the Vatican, which this is all about, I want you guys to listen very carefully, because I'm going to be reading from Revelations. Remember, you guys divided the world into 10 regions right here, okay? And the Bible says so as well. I'm going to start reading, and before I read it, I want you guys to take a piece of pen and a paper, all right? A piece of paper and a pen, and listen to what I'm saying before I'm going to read this particular portion of the Bible, which comes from Revelation chapter number 17. And I'm going to be reading from verse number 9 in the Geneva Bible. But before I read, I want you guys to take a pen and a paper and write this down so you have understanding, all right? So, in this portion that I'm going to read, it's going to talk about beasts, is going to talk about kings, and it's going to talk about the whore or the woman. Now, for the guys writing stuff down, I want you to understand this. When you hear the word beasts, it's talking about a kingdom. All right? When you hear the word horns, it's talking about kings. When you hear the word woman or whore, all right, it's talking about the Roman Catholic Church. And I'm going to start reading this stuff so you guys can see it clearly. Remember, the Vatican divided this world into 10 regions. As you can see right here, pause the video, copy out this link, and go read it up yourself. This is not fiction. This is reality. You have 10 groupings of the world, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's get back to the Bible now. Now, I'm reading from verse number 9, chapter number 17 in the Geneva Bible. And it says, I'm going to read it. So when I'm going to read it, I'm going to break it down and use the words, use the correct words for for the tenses that are being used here. It says, "Here is the mind that hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains where the woman sitteth. They are also 7 kings." What did we say that a woman was? Remember? A church, the Roman Catholic Church. So I'm going to read verse number 9 again so you guys can understand what it means. It says, "Here is the mind that hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains where the church, the Roman Catholic Church, sits. They are also 7 kings." So it's talking about the Vatican. Did you hear that again? Here's the mind that had wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains where the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 are fallen. What does that mean? It means that the Vatican has seen 5 empires or 5 kingdoms of theirs fall. So right from the time that Emperor Constantine brought about the fact that the Vatican, all right, should stop killing the believers of Yehoshua and rather bring them in and construe this form of Christianity that we now have, which is propagated all around the world. From that time on, all right, till current history, 5 kingdoms, right, of the Vatican have fallen. So that's what it means in verse 10. All right? And it says, "And one is," oh goodness. It says, "And one is." What does that mean, one is? That means there is a current kingdom of the Vatican that is not totally done away with. And that is the kingdom that we're living in today. All right? It says, "And one is." And it says, "And another is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space." So that means in the future, this current kingdom that we have here, the current kingdom or the current way the world structure has been set up, which is slowly being, slowly evolving into the one that the Vatican has looked into the future to create these 10 sections, is what's going to come in the future. So we are currently living in this time of the prophecy here in the book of Revelation says that one is. So this is where we are in this time scale. We are right there. One is, and another is yet to come. When he cometh, he must continue a short space. So that means this last kingdom which the Vatican has envisioned for us, or groupings of the world, because what we are currently living in a state of is that the fact that every country seems to have some sort of independence today. But slowly that is changing because the Vatican wants us to be this way into these 10 regional groupings. So for example, you find out in places like Europe, all right, you do not need, Europe uses one currency. Most places in Europe, except maybe recently right now, England and United Kingdom, they use one currency. There are no borders. That means anybody can move from any country to another without requirement for passport checks and all of that. It's all in that kind of arrangement. And that is the current arrangement that the Vatican wants to merge all countries into, such that there are no borders. So you don't just have a regular passport, you're going to have a transnational passport. Does it make sense? So let's keep on reading now for you to understand. It says, "And another is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space." It says, "And the beasts," all right? Beast here means kingdom. It says, "And the kingdom that was and is not is even the 8th, and is one of the 7th, and all go into destruction." Okay? So what is it saying here? So we can continue from verse number 10. It says 5 have fallen. 5 kingdoms of the Vatican have fallen. All right? And one is the one that currently that we're living in right now is the kingdom of the Vatican that came about from the great grandsons of Genghis Khan that we're currently living in. So 5 fallen here were all the black Vatican kingdoms before this one. And it says that another is yet to come. In the future, another kingdom is coming. All right? And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. So now in total, you have seen here, we have 7 kingdoms right here in this particular, in verse number 10. But it says here in verse number 11, and the kingdom that was and is not, is even the 8th, and is one of the 7, and shall go into destruction. So what is talking about here, that there shall be an 8th kingdom, is the kingdom that's going to be led by Satan himself. That will be the final kingdom that's going to be destroyed by the time Yahushua gets here. So that's why it's saying it's the 8th. I hope you guys understand that so far. So let's keep on reading. It says, this is the part that I want you guys to pay very special attention to. It says, verse number 12, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which yet have not received a kingdom, but shall receive power as kings at 1 hour with the kingdom. Now, let me break that down so you guys can understand what it's saying here. All right? It says, let me just actually pull up a picture and explain some things here so you guys can understand perfectly well. So the picture that you're looking at, all right, is a description of what's written here in the Bible. All right? So here you see in this picture, all right, here's a woman riding a bull. And she's wearing the color red, which is representative of the Vatican. And that's what the Bible says in verse number 9 here. Here is the man that had wisdom. The 7 heads, the 7 mountains where the woman sitteth, all right, which talks about the Vatican. There are also 7 kings. Okay? 7 kings meaning 7 kings that will be the totality of all kingdoms, or all, let's say, embodiment of the Roman Catholic kingdom that will run this world. Okay? So let's keep on reading. As you see right here, this woman is sitting on a bull. So we would consider this bull, in terms of the book of Revelation, a beast. And the beast means a kingdom. All right? And the horns right here are 10 horns on that beast. The 10 horns is representative of the 10 kings that will rule these 10 kingdoms in absolute control before the time of Yahushua. That means the 10 kings that will rule this regional setup that the Vatican is envisioning for the world in the future. In the next couple of years, it could be in our generation, or it could be in a generation after. But this is what they envision for us. Let's go back to the scripture. Now it says, the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which yet have not received a kingdom. So right here, these 10 kings or 10 presidents of this 10 regional setup that the Vatican has envisioned for us have not yet come into power. That's what it means. Because the region, not all the countries in each region haven't, been merged into this supranational, entities yet, like Europe has. The only place that has been successful is Europe, because Europe uses one currency and they don't have any borders. There is only some sort of passport that allows you to travel anywhere without any border restrictions. As long as you're a citizen in Europe, you can go anywhere you want. Okay? So that's what it's talking about here in the book of Revelation chapter number 12. That these 10 presidents, we shall oversee these 10 regional setup that the Vatican has made for us, all right, have not yet received power. But they will come into fruition, all right? Let's keep on reading. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which yet have not received the kingdom. They have not come into control of the regions yet, but shall receive power as kings. That means when this regional setup has finally arrived, they will receive power as kings at 1 hour with the beast. At 1 hour with the beast here means that all of them will come together as one kingdom. The 10 regions that the Vatican has made the world into will come into power as one kingdom. Does it make sense? Let's keep on reading. Verse number 13. These have one mind and shall give their power and authority unto the kingdom. So that means instead of, because these 10 regions acting, independently, they shall all come together and act as one. That means that everybody will now become a global citizen. From 10, we'll have 1. That's what it means. Let's keep on reading. It says, let's keep on reading. It says, this shall fight with the Lamb. That means they shall fight with Yehoshua. And the Yehoshua shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are on his side called and chosen and faithful. Let's keep on reading. Verse number 16. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest were the whore, the Vatican, the church, right? The what do we call it? What's it called? I'm trying to find the word, but it means the apostate church. That's what it means. The apostate church seated are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. So that means the Vatican, the woman here is referring to the Vatican. Okay? Sitting and controlling people, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Let's keep on reading. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the kingdom are they that shall hate the Vatican, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Now, this is the message I have for everybody in the Vatican now. This 10 regional setup that you guys are setting up the world to do shall be the very thing that destroys you, as the Bible says right here. That is how you're going to end up, because you're setting up the world, all right, into 10 regions. You're going to give these 10 regions so much power, thinking that they are going to always be, okay, subject to you. But these 10 kingdoms shall also destroy you. It says, for Yahweh had put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to do with one consent, for to give their kingdom, the 10 kingdoms, to give it unto the beast here. That means making it one, until the words of God be fulfilled. And that woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigned over the kings of the earth. So why do I have this special message for you guys in the Vatican? I'm trying to make you understand that your work is futile, because you have given yourself over to Satan. And your original setup of the world that you are slowly conditioning people every day and every night into is going to be your own detriment. It is written about what you guys are doing right here in the Bible. Why are you so blind not to see that something here is at work, and rather change and amend your ways before it's too late? Because you have to understand, no matter what you guys in the Vatican try to do and think that this book, the Bible, is not real, you are doing exactly as it says. And you guys don't even have the wisdom to stop and question yourselves and to ask, why is it that even though we say that the words of the Bible are not true, why are we still acting according to what it says? Is it surprising that the Bible talks about 10 kingdoms and you guys are setting up the world in 10 regions? Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. So this message is for you. Now that you have the time, think about all what you're doing and try to remove yourselves from the wrath that you're heaping up top of yourselves. Do not let people suffer this much anymore, because you've put a lot of suffering on the world. You make people work 2 jobs and they don't even have time to keep to their families. You increase the house rent every time. You increase the insurances for those houses and make sure that they pay out of their pocket from the little that they have. And you also emburden them with things like health insurance to take money away from them, so they have nothing left for themselves, but only to service your own needs so you can all control lives. It's going down a very slippery hill. And I advise you guys to stop and think and to know that there is something much more here at work than just what you think it is. So that's my special message for you, and for anybody else who read along with me. I want you to clearly see what it all means, that everything that's happening around you is not a coincidence. It's right here in the Bible. But because you have been misled for a very long time by the stooges of the Vatican, you don't understand the reading of the book of Revelations. If you want to understand it all, like we've always said, get our book. We are not just selling you a book. It's more than a book. It's not a book. It's a concealed mystery. It's concealed mystery because it's not meant for everybody, because there are still people who doubt about the truth. That's why it's a concealed mystery. So get our book. So with that, that was the message we had for the Vatican. Let's switch gears and find out the people that they have transgendered, or mutilated rather, because there's no such word as transgender, and have been putting them on our TV screens without our knowledge for a very long time. And let's go into who we are featuring today on today's video. Let's go. So the first person we're going to be featuring on today's show in the mutilated section is actually Adam Lambert. Now, for a long time, we've looked at a Lambert. Not like a long time we've looked at a Lambert, but we never really thought, because in this day of deception that the Vatican has heaped cognitive dissonance on a lot of us, we never imagined that Adam Lambert would not be the gender that he claimed, because normally rather, the Vatican portrays him as to be a gay male or homosexual male, and we all believe that. That's the reason for, him being so flamboyant and having makeup and everything else. So I want to thank a very special member of a team for bringing this to our attention right now. Kiss, I want to thank you, and you know who you are. So right there, Adam Lambert, as you can see right here, was born January 29, 1982. A Vatican code of numbers is right there, 29. He's an American singer, songwriter, actor since 2009. He has sold 3 million albums. That's another Vatican code right there. And 5 million singles worldwide. Lambert rose to fame in 2009 after finishing as runner-up on the 8th season of American Idol. So that's how we got to know Adam Lambert from American Idol. And it's funny because the next person that we are featuring on that featuring on this particular video rather, from that 8th season of American Idol is actually the winner, Chris Allen. So Christopher Neil Allen, born June 21st, 1985, another Vatican Code of Numbers, June 21st, right there. He's an American singer-songwriter from Conway, Arkansas, and the winner of the 8th season of American Idol. Prior to Idol, he self-released a 2007 album entitled Brand New Shoes. 2007 is another Vatican Code. Allen's Idol coronation song No Boundaries and his version of Heartless both charted with the top 20 of the Billboard Hot 100. Allen's post-Idol self-titled album was released on November 17th, 2009 by Jive Records, another Vatican Code right there. The album debuted as number 11 to the US Billboard 200. Let's see if we can find some more information on both of these guys. Well, that's all we had for both of them, so you guys can always go look up Adam Lambert and Chris Allen up on the internet, and you can get some more information about who they are and other stuff that's relevant. But one thing, let's see what happened here with early life. He said Allen was born in Jacksonville, Arkansas, to Kimberly Neewood and Neil Allen. We don't know if it's real or not, but what we can tell right here is that there's a Vatican Code of number right here says. Additionally, he taught himself to play the guitar at age 13. So let's keep on talking a little bit and lay the foundation for letting you guys see clearly that these people are actually mutilated and not the gender they claim. Let's go. So before we can continue with the transvestigation of both Adam Lambert and Chris Allen, we just want to take a special break right here and talk to anybody who's a new time subscriber to the channel, because we expect that anybody who's on Tricks of the S-Trade 2 should have been on Tricks of the S-Trade, because a lot of the things that we're talking about, you would have to have the basic foundation from Tricks of the S-Trade before you can continue watching Tricks of the S-Trade 2. If the channel is still up and the Vatican via YouTube hasn't brought it down. But if it's the first time on our channel and you're trying to watch any video, the first video that you have to watch will be the primer video. Without watching the primer video, a lot of the things that we're saying is not going to make any sense to you. You're going to have so many unanswered questions and you're going to be sorely confused. So please get on the channel, look for the playlist called Primer, and watch the Primer video, which is the first video on that playlist, and watch Primer 2, which is this a continuation of Primer, and also watch A Theory of Surrogates and A Theory of Surrogates 2, and any other videos that you have on this particular playlist. And also, when you're watching any video on this channel, there is a link in the description section. I'm hovering my mouse right over it. This link is going to take you to a document. The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. It's very, very important that you download this document and have it in a hard copy format and save it for yourself and for future generations, so you guys can always look through it. Because as we get with each passing generation and each year, the level of deception and the level of disinformation that the Vatican is going to pour upon the world is going to have so many people confused, such that they can't determine between what's real and what's not anymore. So when you have things in a hard copy format, you're able to have reference to it. And we thank, the grace of the Creator Almighty for granting us such things as the Bible, in a hard copy format that you can actually look into and see what's going on. And we also strived as much as possible to make sure that a lot of the information that we have, which is concealed mystery, is also put into hard copy format, so that you can have it and pass it on to your future generations. And that means that we're talking about a book called The Concealed Mystery. So for those who haven't gotten the book, please do save for it and get it. It's very, very important that you get the book, so you have something of your own and you can pass on, and which is also real history, because everything else that's being taught to us in schools and what we have come to understand, to see and read and hear, which is history, is not real history, but history only used to control the narrative that the Vatican wants us to believe in, which is all arranged by Satan himself. So since we're on Transvestigation, we're going to go through this document really quick so we can get to the Transvestigation part and wrap up this long video. So you're looking at the screen right here. What you're looking at is a female to the left of the screen and a male to the right of a screen right here. So with females always have an arch in their back. That's how the skeletal structure of a woman looks like. Now, why does a female have an arch in the back? The female has an arch in the back because her pelvis is tilted forward. Why is the pelvis of a female tilted forward? The pelvis of a female is tilted forward so that a baby can stay inside the womb for the 9 months of conception that a baby has to go through before he or she is born into this world. And the arch in the back is extra support also, so that the woman doesn't have any problems working while she's pregnant, and she won't hurt herself or the baby. So that's why a female has an arch in her back. Now the arch is shaped like a C if you draw the arch from below the shoulder blades. If you draw it from high above the shoulder blades, the back of a woman is going to be shaped like an S. So always remember those two letters, C or S shaped back for a female. Now for males, males do not have any arch in their backs because males do not get pregnant. And because the male pelvis is straight up and down, it's not tilted forward like that of a female, because a man will never get pregnant no matter what the Vatican tells you. There's no such thing as going to be like some sort of implanted wombs that can make a man to be able to carry children. It's never going to happen till the end of this world. These are all lies and deception of the Vatican, which is controlled by the devil himself. So a man's back is always going to be straight up and down, and it's going to shape like a P or a D if it wants to arch. So a man's back, if it wants to arch, is going to arch outwards into the shape of a D or a P. It's not going to arch inwards like that of a female. So a man's back arches outwards, but is straight all the way down to the pelvis. So a man's back is either shaped like a D or a P. Now, for a lot of people who are a lot of fake transvestigation channels who are there either to serve the purposes of the Vatican or to rack up views for themselves, they're going to hear such stories of the fact that sex can be determined, like, by the secondary male or female characteristics. Now, so what are we talking about? So, for example, the secondary female characteristics is that a female grows breasts. A female is going to, have a very slender figure. She's going to be shaped in an hourglass figure. She's going to have, subcutaneous fat, and she's going to look like a woman. For a man, the secondary male features will always be that a male will grow facial hair, will have Adam's apples, and, other things that are related to the secondary male features. You can't base the gender of someone based on either the secondary or male female characteristics. Why? Because you have to understand that the secondary male or female characteristics is based on the primary. And what is the primary difference between both male and female? Is that one skeleton, the skeleton of a female, is designed to give birth. So the only difference between the two genders is that one person, one gender, is designed to give birth and the other is not. And you have to understand that the only way to determine sex is by the skeletal structure of that design. So that's why from dead remains of human beings and skeletons, we are able to determine the gender, because the skeletal structure determines the gender and not the genitals or the secondary male or female characteristics. So always remember that. So on our channel, this is an educational channel. It's not for entertainment or anything. If you come up on our channel and you start saying that someone is a transgender based on the secondary male or female characteristics like long arms, long torsos, Adonis belts, long ring index fingers, Adam's apples, a square jawline, a strong chin, a slanting forehead, brow bossing, and all that kind of nonsense that has nothing to do with childbirth. On our channel, we usually get added to the spam box for slandering people, because you're going about telling false stories about people without any facts, and that's not very nice. If someone were to do it to you, I'm probably very sure you wouldn't like it. So let's scroll forward into the document just to show you some of those characteristics that makes a woman a woman. As you can see right here, here's a female kneeling down. She has a deep C arch in the back because her pelvis is tilted forward. A woman will always have a deep C arch in the back, irrespective of her height, weight, texture of hair, ethnicity, color. It doesn't matter what size the woman comes in. There's always going to be an arch in a female's back. As you can see right here, a big woman to the left of a screen, she has an arch in the back. A smaller female to the right of a screen, she has an arch in the back. So there's always going to be an arch in a female's back. Some can be subtle and some cannot be so subtle. The subtlety is also dependent on, the texture of the hair. With black women especially, they're going to have a more pronounced arch because of how the skeletal structure is. And for people who have straight hair, the arch may not be that pronounced. For more of understanding of the the differences between people who have woolly hair and people who have straight hair, get on the channel Tricks of the S Trade and watch the Myth of Whiteness series, or you can get our book, and that will suffice. So scrolling further into the document, you can see right here, like I've said before, that nothing can change the skeletal structure of anybody. So you guys probably hear that someone can take some sort of drugs and they can change from male to female while in the womb, and or vice versa. Nothing can change the skeletal structure once it's determined at conception. So even then, when someone takes drugs trying to, change the appearance of what they look like, what the drugs do is only change the muscle and the skin content. So, but it will never change the skeletal structure. The skeletal structure remains the same till the day you die, and nothing can change that. So, as you can see right here, is a very muscular female working out, taking a lot of weights. Sorry, doing a lot of weights and taking a lot of supplements rather, but nothing can change her skeletal structure. As you can see right here, she still has that arch in her back, even with all these muscles. Another female right here, she still has an arch in her back, because a female will always have an arch in the back. Without that, you can't be female, because the pelvis of every female is tilted forward. So that makes a woman to have an arch in her back. So now let's go over and play a clip of one of the most important defining features between the sexes, and then we can continue with the transvestigation of Adam Lambert and Chris Allen. So the clip I'm going to play is going to show you exactly where the location of a female hip is. So because the female is designed to give birth, her hips are below the crotch. Why are they below the crotch? The hips are below the crotch so that a female can have easy access to childbirth, and the hips are not in the way when a woman is about to give birth. So that's the reason why a female hip is below the crotch. Also, because of that, the female pelvis is designed in such a way so that a woman can have, easy access to childbirth. A woman has a wide pubic arch. The pubic arch is the space in between the crotch or the thighs. For females, is usually 120 degrees or more, and for males, is 90 degrees or less. Now, because of the wide pubic arch a female has, everything in the female pelvis is farther apart. So that's why the hips are wider and farther apart and below the crotch. Now, there are a lot of channels who are going to tell you that there is such a thing as shoulder to hip ratio, which determines if you're male or female. There is no such thing. A woman's shoulders can be wider than her hips. That does not make you to be male. It's the location of the hips that determine if you're male or female. For females, the location of the hips is below the crotch. For males, it's above the crotch. Why is a man's hip above his crotch? Because the way the Creator Almighty designed it is that the genitalia of a man needs to be outside the body, below the body, or outside the body rather, and below the body temperature of human beings for optimal performance. So the hips determines where the torso of your body actually ends. So for men, their hips are above the crotch. For females, it's below the crotch. That is the way things are. So also because of that, the female has an acute Q angle because the hips are wider. The Q angle is the angle between the hips and the knee. And for females, that Q angle starts below the crotch. For males, it's going to be above the crotch. So you're going to see right now how this female hip is measured. As you can see right here, the tape goes around and it's below the crotch, because this is how all female clothing in the world is measured. Without knowing the location, right? Or if females were having varying places for their hips, all right? All the clothes that are sewn around in so many places around the world and shipped to many different countries would not fit the women, because the location of the hip is varying. But the location of all female hip is below the crotch. So if you're a woman and you find out that your hips are above your crotch, that means that someone took you as a baby boy, and made you live your life out as a baby girl. And we're so sorry that happened to you. But all the same, We're just trying to make you understand the way things are. So this woman is going to turn around from the back so you can see the location of that female hip, where it's at from the back. So I always suggest this. If you have a problem trying to determine the gender of someone from the front, try to see if you can find pictures of the person from the back. Because once you see anybody from the back, you would be able to determine the gender because of how acute the Q angle shows from the back, especially for females. So if this was a man, all right, as you can see here, this is a female right here. You can see that the location of this hip and the Q angle is slightly above this bum line, but below the crotch. If this was male, the location of this Q angle will be farther up above this bum line and would not be this close, as you can see right here. So let me show you an example in a picture of Iggy Azalea. Now, Iggy Azalea is believed to be a very beautiful woman, but in all sincerity, all right, Iggy Azalea is 100% male, because you can see right here, here's Iggy Azalea's bum line, but look at where the Q angle is. It's all above, so far away from this bum line, because Iggy Azalea is 100% male. Unlike this woman, in which the Q angle is slightly just above a bum line. In Iggy Azalea's case, the bum line is right here. The Q angle is all the way up there, because Iggy Azalea is male and not female. All right. So with that, let's get into the transvestigation of Adam Lambert and Chris Allen and wrap up this video. So here is a picture of Adam Lambert, and as you can see right there, that you've been looking at a female all along. But since the Vatican doesn't want you to know that this is a woman, and they didn't want the public to catch up to that, they presented two, mutilated females dressed up as males to us in Adam Lambert and Chris Allen on the American Idol show. And way back, I think that at this time that Adam Lambert and Chris Allen came on the music scene on American Idol, when I wasn't really aware, I was just looking at that I was just looking at the screen and wondering, why is this show called American Idol? It never used to sit well with me. But now I do understand what's really going on. There's a whole lot of, negative demonic energy coming through those shows. And a lot of people are getting fed into it. Even the t-shirt that Adam Lambert, he has so much of that demonic energy that which the Vatican is spreading all around the world and immersing the world into satanic worship. But as you can see right here, we're talking about Adam Lambert, and as you can see, this waist right here, or this pelvic region, is way too wide to be male. As you can notice right there and then, this is way too wide to be a male pelvis because it's a female pelvis. And if you want to look at where the possible location of the navel is for Adam Lambert, his navel position based on this torso rather would be right around here. And that's way too high, way too deep inside the torso of the body, away from the crotch, for it to be male, because a male navel is usually very, very low, set towards the crotch. But for females, it's higher up because the pelvis of a female takes almost half the torso of the body. And this is what Adam Lambert is exhibiting right here, because Adam Lambert is 100% female and not a man. Next picture. Here's Adam Lambert with a group. The group is called Queen. I think they're right now on tour. We're going to be taking a good special look at that group also called Queen, because we don't understand why a male group should be called Queen. There's something funny going on, and then we'll take a look and see what we come up with. But nevertheless, we're looking at Adam Lambert right here. As you can see, this pelvis, this Q angle is below the crotch, as you can tell. Let me try to blow this picture up as much as I can so you can see that this is a female pelvis and not that of a man. As the Q angle right here, as you can see, right here is below the crotch, and it's very, very cute because Adam Lambert is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. Adam Lambert again, you can see that the space in between the pubic arch is way too wide for it to be male, because with when a man sits, since he has a very narrow pubic arch, the way he sits is going to form a V shape, but for females it's going to form a U shape because the pubic arch is wider. And this is what Adam Lambert is exhibiting right here, because Adam Lambert is 100% female. Let's go to the next picture. And here it's clear as night and day. We should end the video right here. This should suffice. The Q angle of Adam Lambert is below the crotch and not above it. Whatever is going on here is fake. It's attached. It's not even real. And you can see that this is a woman. This is what we would call, in normal circumstances, people will call a butch lesbian, because you can see right here that this is a female, a bit masquerading around as a male for way too long. As you can see, this acute Q angle is below the crotch because Adam Lambert is 100% female. You can marinate on that picture for a while because, you know, you're looking at a female. We should end this particular section of Adam Lambert right here, but we just want you to take a very good look. And you can see that the hand placement of where Adam Lambert rests our hands is the placement for a female. You can see how natural this arm flows and where it hangs, because that's the female waist right there, which is always just slightly above the navel, which would be right around here. Adam Lambert's navel will be right around this point, and that's the waist point, which is always just slightly below the rib cage and above the navel, because Adam Lambert, as you're looking at, is a woman, was never a man. All right, let's go to another picture right here, and still Adam Lambert right here, and you can see this acute Q angle is below the crotch, as you can tell right here, because Adam Lambert is 100% female and not a man. Here's Adam Lambert again, still exhibiting that wide pubic arch of a female, and you can see that where his belt buckle is way too far away from this crotch, because it's a female waist and not a male waist. Let's go to another picture. Here's Adam Lambert again. As you can see, this acute Q angle is below the crotch, walking like a female and lying to us that he's a gay male when he's actually a woman. And that's what Adam Lambert is. Here's Adam Lambert again. Still that same thing. You can see how wide the pubic arch is. You can see when a woman sits, the butt will spread wider, because a woman's butt is wider, bigger, and longer than a man's butt, because it has to contain the reproductive organs for a child to be birthed into this world. And that's what Adam Lambert is exhibiting right here, rather to say. You can see how wide she sits on the U-shaped, crotch which she has, because Adam Lambert is 100% female and was never male. Let's go Adam Lambert again. You can still see this acute Q angle is below the crotch. Let me blow this up as much as I can so you guys can see it's below the crotch, not above it, because Adam Lambert is 100% female. That's the picture where to show you that. And this is a member of Queen. We'll be taking a good look, I think, at all of them to see what we come up with, because we don't know why a group should be called Queen. Adam Lambert again, that's a female there with an arch in the back, and the pelvis is tilted forward. You can see right there. There's an arch in that back because Adam Lambert is 100% female. Let's go to another. Okay, I think that was the last picture of Adam Lambert, and we've crossed over to Chris Allen right here. As you can see, Chris Allen curves like a female. The arms are following the following the contours of the body, because, like we've always said, the arms of a female are shaped like her body in an hourglass figure. So if you're a female, if you raise your arms up and let your palms face you, you will notice that from your elbows, it angles outwards, because that's where a female arm is shaped like an hourglass figure to accommodate the body. And this is what Chris Allen is exhibiting here. Chris Allen is 100% female and not a man in any way. Here's Chris Allen again. You can see from the way he walks, this acute Q angle is below the crotch. We have some more pictures for you to show you that. We just wanted to show you the way that she walks, that it's a female walk right here. Because when a woman walks, what usually happens, like when a woman moves her legs right into when she's walking, because of the wide pubic arch a female has, the body or the legs need to do two things. They need to come inwards and forwards at the same time. So when that happens, all the weight of the body is leaned into the leg that's in front of it, making the woman to sway from side to side because of the wider pubic arch. And that's all what the body just does naturally in a biomechanical way to support the weight of the body, because the pubic arch is wider. And here is Adam Lambert. Here is Chris Allen walking and stepping his feet into the stride forward and inwards at the same time to balance the weight. And that's what she's exhibiting here, because Chris Allen is 100% female like Adam Lambert. Here's another picture of Chris Allen right here. You can see the acute Q angle is below the crotch. And you can see how wide and big the bum is, because for a female always has a wider, bigger, and longer butt than a male, because the pelvis is wider, it's bigger, and longer, so that the baby can stay inside. And that's what Chris Allen is exhibiting right here. Let's go to another picture. Here's Chris Allen with the we don't know where they get. This is what we tell you every day. Where are they getting the children from? Because two females cannot ever give birth. So where are they getting these children from? Well, when you watch the theory of surrogates, we'll let you know all of that. And like we've talked about before, there is no such thing as frozen sperm and embryos. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. The viability of that sperm and embryo existing outside of the human body, no matter the frozen condition, can go beyond a couple of hours, not even up to a day. So for you to believe in such fake stories that they have frozen sperm and embryo which they can produce children from is all false. They use human beings. They use siblings. They use, siblings of people who resemble the transgender, parents to give birth and make us believe that these people are actually the gender they claim when they're not. But looking at Chris Allen right here, you can tell that the navel of Chris Allen is way too high inside this torso. It's going to be right around where I'm pointing my mouse. And you can see from that distance that that pelvic region is going to be way too long down the crotch because Chris Allen is 100% female and not a man in any way. Let's go to another picture. Yes, Chris Allen again exhibiting that same thing, that this is a woman in jeans. This is how a female pelvis is. You can see how wide it is and how long it is from where the belt buckle is all the way down, because the female pelvis is longer, it's bigger, it's wider for childbirth. And that's what Chris Allen is exhibiting right here, because Chris Allen is 100% female. Some more pictures again. Here's Chris Allen again. You can see, even though she's trying to fake the way she stands, but we can see that this Q angle is below the crotch, as you can see right here. An acute Q angle below the crotch because Chris Allen is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. And here's Chris Allen is beginning to show. You can see that. See how wide the pelvis and the Q angle is? It's below the crotch because Chris Allen is 100% female and not a man in any way. And this female right here is supposed wife, Catherine Allen. This is two homosexual couples, one homosexual couple pretending that they're actually heterosexual one when they're not. This is how the Vatican feeds us lies every day, because Chris Allen here is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. Here is Chris Allen. You can see the hourglass figure beginning to show as she curves all the way down, because the female pelvis takes almost half the length of the torso and is usually starts just below the rib cage. And you can see this is just where the rib cage of Chris Allen would be, and see how she curves all the way down, because Chris Allen is 100% female and this acute Q angle is below the crotch. Chris Allen, 100% female, not a man in any way. Here's Chris Allen again. We are showing you, or you should take notice of the navel, that it's set way too high inside the torso of the body to be male. See how far it is, and see how small the rib cage is around here, because Chris Allen is 100% female. And even the chest muscles are not symmetrical. They are asymmetrical. They are not symmetrical, because for males the chest muscles are usually symmetrical, but for females it's not, because if you notice, a female breast, one breast is always bigger than the other, and that causes the asymmetry in a female's chest. And this is what Chris Allen is exhibiting: small rib cage. If for a man, if this was man, this navel right here would be farther down and the rib cage would be farther longer down, but it's not. It ends right here. It's way too short to be a male. Rib cage is actually female. And you can see how she spreads from right above, the navel right here all the way down, because Chris Allen is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. Here it's clear as night and day. We should end the video right here. This should suffice. As you can see right here, this acute Q angle is below the crotch, and you can see how wide it is. The acute Q angle is right here, starts below the crotch. You can see that, because Chris Allen is 100% female, hourglass figure. Let's go to another picture. And Chris Allen again still exhibiting the same thing. See that? Acute Q angle is below the crotch, not above, below. And see how wide it sticks outside the body? It's because it starts right here and starts getting wider and wider. If you're a female, you will notice from underneath your elbows that you start spreading wider. And the widest point will always be your hips, which is below the crotch. And this is what Chris Allen is exhibiting right here, because Chris Allen is 100% female and not a man. Chris Allen again still showing the same thing. This acute Q angle is below the crotch, been deceiving us for a very long time. A stooge of the Vatican and a poor child, probably taken from when she was a baby and made to live in a man's world, a man's clothing, and act like a man and talk like a man. So it's a cold, cold world we live in, and you can see how Adam Lambert curves here with whosoever she. You can see this is a female curve right here, because you can see when a woman. I don't know how to explain this much more better, but a female always curves more when she's trying to be, trying to get into position for something. You can see these curves are so woman-like. They are not edgy and angular like a man should be, because Chris Allen is 100% female and not a man in any way. Let's go to another pic. There's both of them. You can see the with what's this girl lady's name? I think this is Let me try to recall, what is this lady's name? So the lady's name is Paula Abdul. She was one of the judges on American Idol. So what you're looking at is three females right here, because Paula Abdul is one. And like we've always said, you can't make any role models of anybody you see on TV, because they are all working for the Vatican against you. So they were pretending to us that these were two males when they're actually two females, with her inclusive making three. As you can see, Adam Lambert still has the acute Q angle, which is below the crotch. And we already showed you that Chris Allen is 100% female. Here's another picture of Chris Allen. You can see how wide the hips start getting, and the cute Q angle is below the crotch. You can marinate on that picture for a while, so you can see it clearly as night and day. Clear, wide pelvis of a female. A cute Q angle is below the crotch, because Chris Allen is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. Here's a picture of Chris Allen with a group, but you can see right here, this is Chris Allen with an hourglass figure, because Chris Allen is 100% female, and the cute Q angle is below the crotch, 100% female. Here's another picture, clear as, and remember the thing we talked about, that if you look at a woman from the back, you're going to be able to know, or if you look at anybody from the back, you're going to tell this is male or female, because how acute the Q angle shows. And you can see right here, here is Adam Lambert, right, pretending that he's holding on to another male, because they're trying to portray that he's a homosexual man, when he's actually holding two females hugging each other. As you can see, the acute Q angle of Adam Lambert from the back, showing here that it's a female. From where this is, remember what we showed you? Here is the bum line, and here's the Q angle right there, because Chris Allen is 100% female. You can see how she spreads from this point, which is usually the male waist, higher up, and then she gets wider and wider and wider, and it tapers right around here, because Chris Allen is 100% female. Let's go to another picture right here. Clear as night and day again, two females. You can see the acute Q angle is below the crotch, hourglass figure below the crotch, because both Adam Lambert and Chris Allen on American Idol Season 8 were two females. Here is another picture. I think this should be the last picture right here. Is it the last picture? Okay, it's not the last picture, but you can still see this acute Q angle is below the crotch, hourglass figure of Chris Allen. Let's go to another picture. You can still see how she spreads. You can see those are the hips right there. And when a woman sits, this is what usually happens. The hips just stick outside. And this is what's happening to Chris Allen, because she's 100% female. The hips sticking outside right there. This is just a GIF picture we found. We just wanted to show you how deep set the navel is, and you can see there's an arch in that back, and how she spreads, because Chris Allen is 100% female, pretending that is male. Same thing again here. You can see how wide she is, gets wider and wider and wider, and the cute Q angle below the crotch, because this is a female sitting down in Chris Allen. Let's go to another picture again, them again with Adam Lambert. You can see that hourglass figure. Chris Allen, 100% female, was never a man in any way. Another picture again, same thing. Another picture again, and this one's very clear with the so-called I've forgotten what is this man's name. Let me find out again. So the man's name is Ryan Seacrest. He's a presenter on American Idol. But all I want you guys to take a look is how Chris Allen arms follows the contours of the body, because there's a way a woman's arms hang, especially her hands hang around her body. And this is what Chris Allen is exhibiting right here, because these are two females, and Ryan Seacrest pretending to us that these are two males. I think that's the last picture on the end of today's video. Sorry if it was a long video, but we always have to tell you the truth. And please, in all that you do, try to save money and get the book. in your own best interest if you're interested in truth and real history, because there are a lot of things that we couldn't say on this video, and there's a lot more, a whole lot more. The videos are just 5% of the book. Believe us when we tell you so. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. Subscribe and stay tuned, get the book, and we leave you with these words: always look with your eyes, but see with your brain. I'll talk with you guys later.